But when I started my journey, going through depression, the suicidal thoughts, the confusion and everything. And so this is where my hair comes in.
Nazia Khatun, physical, mental and spiritual coach. Advocate for self-love, motivation, a positive mindset, exercise, nutrition and mental health.
My greatest fear, not accomplishing the things that I have in my head. I remember fighting a lot, being called the P word all the time. Then you realize, what the hell?
So you had to have physical
Literally.
fight.
I loved it.
Wow.
I keep telling people I'm not a feminist. I am far from a feminist. Right? Feminism has ruined so many of us. I want to be living in my soft girl era. I want to be looked after. I want to be protected.
What is your one greatest fear?
My greatest fear?
Yeah.
Not leaving this planet, making a difference or a change, and not accomplishing the things that I have in my head. I think that's one of my fears. Actually, if I was to sum it up, not playing out or showing up in my true potential. There's so much more behind the scenes of every one of us, and I feel I have a lot to offer, and I'm still playing small. Yeah.
Nice. Interesting. Now we're going to hopefully unpack a lot of your potential throughout the conversation today. But take us back to the beginning.
The beginning?
Yes, the beginning of Nazia Khatun, where it all began.
1983, that's where it began.
Amazing.
I was born in 1983. There you go. No, but I guess you're asking about the journey, right? Funny enough, I was actually thinking about this yesterday, and it all relates to my hair, right? And 10 years ago, my hair, and I'll give you a beautiful story of my hair and what I mean by this. So when I came on this fitness journey 10 years ago, I started late, very late, in the beginning of my 30s. And, having experienced the highs and the lows, being a fitness coach, I was an amateur boxer beforehand. These are things we don't hear in our Bangladeshi community, especially before social media, right? Before social media, I was probably one of the first South Asian Muslim Bangladeshi females who was an amateur boxer, and one of the few rare females that was in the fitness industry. Now we have so many, which is great. But when I started my journey, going through the things that we don't speak about, depression, the suicidal thoughts, the confusion and everything. And so this is where my hair comes in. Depression actually was something that I experienced for a year. And I understand how it makes sense, why and what happened, because, putting the jigsaw puzzles together. And I remember clearly my hair started falling out and I started getting bouts of alopecia. We're talking about 10 years ago, right? And I was known for my thick, long hair. And then all of a sudden, the hair is a beauty of all females. Imagine seeing bald patches. And men, I guess now, right? Having bouts of alopecia all over my head, and there's a part right underneath here, I call it my rat's tail, but it's such a beautiful, I wouldn't say a memory, but a reminder of how far I've come. So, just going on a very negative beginning of the journey. But I guess that's how the journey started, not knowing what to do and how to find the compass in this journey.
So what was it like growing up in the 80s?
Amazing. I loved it. I actually loved it. I wish I can go back and capture those moments and live it again, because I played out a lot. I'm the first of 6 siblings, so we had a very different era to grow up in. It was very carefree. It was very, I would say the word freedom comes into my head, whereas now children don't even play out. They don't have the ability to play out because of so much that's going on in our society. To name the few, like grooming, kidnappers, pedophiles out there, and social media and the tablets that we all have access to. So we didn't have all of that growing up. So it was fun. It was really fun.
So obviously males have faced different challenges in the 80s. What was it like for females Was it different or was it similar because you're brown,
we grew
you
up,
look in a certain way?
I don't know about, I haven't spoken to many men about it, but we grew up as Bangladeshi, South Asian, with a lot of racism in our time as well, right? I don't know.
What area are we talking about?
Tower Hamlets.
Tower Hamlets.
Yeah, I grew up in Tower Hamlets and I moved to East Ham. So we were, we had to fight a lot. I remember fighting a lot. I literally did. Being called the P word all the time. Then you realize, what the hell?
So you had to have physical
literally
fights.
Yeah, we grew up fighting.
Wow.
I loved it.
Wow.
I loved it.
You were growing up quite angry. I mean, where does anger come from?
So I speak a lot about how we become the product of our environment and how we were parented a lot. So you got to remember, we come from a generation of parents that were in survival mode. Our parents weren't equipped. No parent is equipped with manuals how to raise children. And being the eldest daughter, and there's 4 sisters after me and 1 brother, there's a lot of pressure of, how do I say, to be this perfect role model, to be this Bangladeshi woman, to take after your parents, their dreams and everything. And people forget that when we raise children, they also have their own desires, their own dreams and their own paths. But sometimes, I guess collectively, a lot of parents do that. They mollycoddle children or they want them to become something that the child isn't. Those are just some of the factors that I would say that contributed to my anger. And then I was just an angry child. And if I really put it down to it, it was probably because I learned that behavior around me as well. We did have angry relatives. We did have angry fathers, grandfathers and everything. And these are things people don't really talk about and acknowledge. But now that I'm in the work that I do, healing through fitness, trauma healing and stuff, I can see how much of it impacts us as growing up, as young people, and how we see the world through our own eyes or our parents' eyes or whatever perception we look at it, really.
So obviously the conversation that we're going to have is mainly around, I guess, fitness and eating habits, nutrition. Yeah. What is eating disorder and how common is it?
In the South Asian Bangladeshi community, in the 10 years I've been in this industry, I would say I deal with 1 in 3 clients who have some sort of eating disorder. So the most common ones we know is anorexia, bulimia, binge eating. Eating disorders isn't just a straightforward way to explain it to someone. It goes a bit deeper. It's a distorted idea of how you see yourself. So when I grew up, and again, let's go back to how our culture can be very toxic and it has an impact on young females and men, I guess, as well. We are very, very concerned with how we look. Everybody's concerned with how they show up, presentation. If a child is fat, chubby, whatever, parents are not nice to them, right? No. And we always compare. When I say we, I'm talking about people behind the scenes of, if you're a parent, relative or something, or in our culture, right? And what happens is when a child picks up, it can be verbally, it can be just that they pick up the cues on what is acceptable, what isn't. It creates a huge havoc in how they see themselves. So for me, if I took myself an example, is I grew up knowing that being small, petite, skinny was to be attractive. Then if you layer it up in the Bangladeshi community, there wasn't any big females or young people growing up in that time, 80s. So when you're called chubby or unhealthy, straight away you think, oh my God, I'm no longer fitting in. So when that used to happen to me, and I did have a horrible growth spurt at the age of 12. I was taller than all my friends around me. I was bigger. I didn't fit the ideal petite, skinny Bangladeshi female. And I was very sporty. So I had broader shoulders. And so it created a big, how do I say it? I wanted to fit in. So I went on this diet. What started out as a diet turned into an eating disorder. It was anorexia, then it was bulimia, then it was binge eating. And if I'm really honest with you here, it's taken me till now and I still have to manage myself with these bad habits that I accumulated when I was a young person. And where we didn't have a lot of, how do I say it, space to talk about it, a lot of people struggle behind the scenes. So I have a lot of mums and dads who reach out to me saying, Naz, can you help my young child? I don't know what to do with them. When you talk to the young person, they're just concerned about how they look. And in our society, in our Bangladeshi community, South Asian, these are things that are not spoken about because eating disorders are seen as a Western white female problem. But it isn't. It really has to be spoken about. And we have to keep bringing up the narrative.
So, obviously, you developed a eating disorder. You went through, I guess, how many phases of...
all of them.
So you went through all of them.
Yeah.
And when did you realize, actually, I need to kind of take some actions
there was 2 points.
to counter?
2 points. I didn't realize the impact of being the elder sister, how much it maybe... What's the right word? The role model that I was becoming for my younger sisters, the impact it had on them, the repercussions it had on them. So there was the younger sister who's 12 years apart from me. And she was picking up on what her elder sister was doing. So she had a problem with it. And I think she walked in once when I'm so embarrassed to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. When she walked in and I was throwing up, and, she was like, oh, are you sick or something? And that was, oh my God, that was a penny drop moment. It's like, what kind of a role model am I being to my younger sisters? And there was another time where, again, it's embarrassing to admit all of this, when it got to a point where I was vomiting out blood, right?
Wow.
So it's something I was like, okay, now I'm in a lot of trouble. And anything that it was a part of my addiction, a coping mechanism, shall I say, as well. I became excessively addicted to exercise. And then that led to one thing to another thing. And when I look back at it and having gone 3 years of therapy, I go, it all makes sense.
So what was the strategies? What action plans did you have in place at that point, when you were vomiting blood? Okay, I need to get out of this. What was your kind of way out strategy?
I don't think there was a way out. There was just managing. Okay, I'm just not going to throw up voluntarily anymore. I'm not going to starve anymore. And it's weird thinking back because there is no strategy. You just get on with it. And then before you know it, there's a label for the binge eating. There's a label for the healthy eating. There's just another label for you to address and put yourself in that category. And then it's like, oh, I have a problem here. But this eating disorder took me at least a decade to acknowledge, to become aware of it, to actually also have the courage to seek help. Because that eating disorder, I would say, robbed me of my youth, if I'm completely transparent here. Because I was so concerned.
How many years have you lost?
All of my 20s. All of my 20s, prime years when people were having fun, developing themselves or figuring out what they wanted to do in life. I was too concerned about how I looked. It was a disease. It is a disease, actually. If anybody's gone through the eating disorder, they will know how dark it is, how horrible it can get, and how quickly you can slip into the darkness as well. Yeah.
So what you've said is you have to acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to prepare to seek help. And there was something else you mentioned. So if you have to
become aware of it.
Acknowledge it, and then seek help.
Yeah.
What help did you seek, and from who?
In my 20s, I didn't. In my early 30s, I didn't, because I thought it was over and done with when I was exercising. Because you got to remember, I used exercise as a way of overcompensating to not become unhealthy or overweight. It was all about managing not getting fat, okay? So that became another horrible disease in itself. I am going to call it as it is because we don't acknowledge anything that's good for us that can be detrimental to our psychological and our mental well-being. So I think it's only when I started working with a coach on my business, and then I realized I had to do a lot of work on my physical body because from the boxing I had developed a lot of injuries. And she had to take what we call a food diary. And she said, Naz, have you ever struggled with an eating disorder? I'm like, yeah, how did you know? I never confessed because I didn't think it was a thing. And she just looked at my eating habits. I'm either under-eating, over-eating, or eating too much of the wrong stuff, or going on weeks of healthy eating and then going the opposite end. I go, oh, okay. And that was the first time.
Was it a business to do with fitness, or was it something else?
it was to do with my fitness business. Like, how do I package what I'm doing? Who am I about? What is the program about? And then working with that slowly, you just discover more and more things that you need to work on first.
So what made you think that obviously you had this disorder and then now you want to kind of package that up and then I guess help other people? Were you not kind of out of that phase before you started the business, or what you were still kind of discovering it as you went along?
I still think people who have first-hand experience of something, they're the best people to go and get coaching or mentoring from, because they have first-hand experience that you can relate to. I can't come to you and ask you for female problems if you don't know what it's about, right? So saying that, I would say at the beginning, it was all about learning about how to be a fitness coach, how to not just package the eating disorder, because that would be completely wrong. I wanted to tell people how to be happy, right? But along the way, it was actually showing our Asian community the value of fitness.
I haven't seen, I mean, the only person that I've come across is probably yourself, who's doing what you're doing. Now, I guess you might have to, to me, it seems like it's quite rebellious. Do you consider yourself to be quite rebellious?
I do. 100% do. And without even realizing it, I was rebelling my whole entire life. And I tell you why I was rebelling. I was rebelling against the discriminations and the stereotypes that was given to me without my permission, okay? I did not come onto this planet wanting to be what my parents wanted to be, right? And it was hard for me to discover what Nazia was about. So without even realizing it from a young age, I was rebelling. But then I also had a father who was teaching us females how to be empowered, how to stand up for injustice, how to stand up for ourselves, how to be kind and how to be educated and what it means to be a woman in this world. So then coming out into the real world and then all of these stereotypes of what we see as brown females, it was hard. I was like, no, I'm not doing this actually. So for me, being a boxer wasn't a rebellious act. If there was some elements, I was rebelling, some elements I wasn't. Being a boxer was something I pursued because I enjoyed it. And I always tell people I needed boxing at a time when it came to me. And it served me, but it no longer serves me. I'm not that person anymore. So yeah, I would say, I think the rebellious people make a difference in life.
So what aspects of your, father's mentoring that you felt wasn't wanted or solicited? I mean, what part of it could have been different?
Like, I respect every parent who's doing the best for their child. And that's all they're doing. Like, if I remember my father in the 80s, he was the only person who was going out to work. And my mum did an amazing job of being a mum at home. But that in itself comes with their own traditional outcomes for what they want for their child, okay? I'm sure my father still, till this day, feels I haven't been successful in his eyes. Or my mum, because I'm not married and I have children. And that used to bug me a lot. But he did his best that he could to give me everything that I needed in this life, in terms of making sure I had a roof over my head, making sure I was fed, clothed, had dinner money. You know, I'm spoiled. I'm the oldest. I have been spoiled compared to my younger brothers and sisters. And they're going to hate me when they hear this because I never admitted this. And our parents come with their own set of beliefs, and their beliefs get passed on to us. And that is something we have to acknowledge as children, that their beliefs doesn't necessarily align with our beliefs. My outlook is very different to theirs.
So what is the definition of success in your parents' eyes? Did you ever ask them, like, okay, what is it that you want me to be? And did you ever compare, like, okay, I'm so far apart from what they want me to be? I mean, it looks like you're, in some sense, you're very close to your family, but in some sense, you're just so far apart from what they want you to be.
I didn't do that on purpose, okay? I think just wanting to pursue a different path that was different from the 9 to 5 took me away from the farness that you talk about. What their definition is it is probably just that, as most Bangladeshi parents or people that look at you in this community, you're only successful if you've achieved X, Y, and Z at certain times and certain age. If you have a family of your own, if you're married, if you have children, okay? I love that idea, I do. But as time moves on, we have to move on with our forward way of thinking as well. So I remember this one saying, technology has moved on and it's evolved, but certain cultures and the traditions are still outdated and backwards, and we are in conflict. If we speak to a lot of Bangladeshi or South Asian, most of us live in conflict. We don't know, do we make ourselves happy or do we make our parents happy? Yes, we all have a duty to make them happy, but we can't forget ourselves as well. We have to live in our path, what is given to us. We all have a calling, and we're all here on our own purpose. That's what I say.
So obviously evolution of our culture. Could it be that the culture is still kind of closer to how maybe God make us as human species, or is it that we have to move along with technology? Is that the kind of barometer of progress and growth? Yeah. Or could it be that certain things that we preserve?
Absolutely. I think I'm a huge... Look, I love my Bangladeshi culture. I love Islamic teachings. I try my best to adopt the teachings of Islam and my culture as well, right? So this is where it becomes really confusing for a lot of people. Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to understand. There's a lot of angles.
Yeah, but I love it though, because that's what makes me me. And I don't mind you not understanding me, because my core values are still attached to my religion, and my core values are still attached to my culture, my upbringing and my roots. What does it mean to be a Bangladeshi woman? What does it mean for my people, right? Where do I get this spirit from? If I look back at my ancestors, it's in their DNA. It's in our DNA to be fighters or freedom fighters or whatever you look at it. And then what does it mean to be a young Muslim female here as well? It's very, very, it's always in our faces nowadays. But those core values is what makes me who I am. And then if I look at modern society now, I'm here now. We're in 2024. I don't have a choice, but I'm here. This is my life's journey. I have to adapt to society. It's almost like, if I don't do this podcast, or if you didn't come up with the name of this podcast, you get left behind, right? And I have seen myself being left behind if I don't keep up with modern expectations and everything. But being modern doesn't mean we just become like a coconut. Yeah. I say this word so lightly.
Okay, so there's an aspect of mental health issues. I mean, you have faced some difficulties. When did it start, and what was it like? What was your lowest point, and describe that scene? You know, what did it feel like?
I don't like talking about it too much, if I'm honest with you, because it makes me very, how do I say? It's emotional. Yeah. You know, we're emotional beings, so to think and remember all those things is hard. But if I think about it, I probably had a lot of psychological issues because of the eating disorder. That is a mental health issue.
Wow.
Yeah? So that is black and white. Then growing up, I don't think mental health should be just put in a very blasé way. We all have mental health issues. If you're a human, you're going to face those emotions, the highs and the lows. It's how we are not equipped of how to handle those emotions, how we're not resilient, how we don't have the grit, how we don't have that mindset. And that's where sports helped me to create that. It's almost like the calluses of my brain, being able to cope with the hardships of life. If I go back to what I said to you at the beginning, opening this conversation up with my hair, in my 30s, just as I turned 30, and it was that point of, okay, I'm 30 now, everybody's married, everybody's got children, everybody's successful. I'm not, and I'm just transitioning from my career. That was my hardest time, I would say. That was the hardest time where I was unemployed for many years, and something in me just said, just stick it out. All my savings were gone. You feel like a letdown. You feel like a failure, let's be honest, by your parents, from your siblings. You're the eldest. You haven't really showcased the perfect role model, the perfect sister. So I would say that was a very, very tough moment. And where I faced the depression and those thoughts. It was hard admitting that I was depressed because I was the clown of the party or the loudmouth or just like somebody who was always smiling and laughing. All of a sudden, that was all gone.
So you were very busy, I guess, making others feel good, but at the same time, deep inside, you were not kind of the person that you wanted to be or you should have been.
Because we always suppressing our emotions. Because in our society, we're not encouraged to talk about what's bothering us. We're not encouraged to say, hey, I'm feeling sad because of, or something happened here and this is how it's making me feel. I do it very beautifully now because I have the knowledge and, going on that journey of being a fitness coach, having to understand how the brain works, doing the neuroscience and transforming myself. I can see why we have to talk, why the gratitude happens, why we need it. The prayers, how it's helped me, having good friends around me, how it's helped me, being true to myself. We are all experience this life same way, but differently.
Hey guys, I hope you have been enjoying today's episode of Side by Side podcast with Nazia Khatun, an award-winning fitness specialist. If you have been enjoying today's episode, please subscribe to the channel you are tuned into. Your subscription is the fuel that keeps our motivational engine running, driving our mission to ignite the success for many. You said something right at the beginning as well. You wanted to feel good. So were you that entertainer because it gave you that dose of feeling good?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
You made people laugh.
Yeah.
You gave them a good time. So ultimately, I guess that's what it's about, feeling good.
Yeah, that's what we're all chasing, aren't we? The feel-good experiences. And that's what sports gave me, my fitness gave me, what boxing gave me. But what gives me a kick and a high now is I'm on this journey as a fitness coach and I built this brand up. It's not just fitness. It's more to do with healing trauma. It's talking about the things that we don't speak in our community, which gives other people permission to do it.
So that brings us perfectly into our next part of our discussion, which is yourself and your life as a coach. Was it as expected, or things were different because you were maybe a woman of South Asian background, or you had a brown skin? I mean, did you have any of? Which one was harder? Which one?
The answer is no. It's not what I expected. I thought the grass would be greener on the other side, and it definitely wasn't. And it goes from different angles. We as females weren't, in my time, we weren't encouraged to go and be business females, entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call it, working for yourself. Because the system has you thinking you need the system. Your parents think that you have to have a 9-to-5 job, okay? So all of a sudden I've gone into this career and it was a passion, you got to remember. I didn't have any background in business and I still struggle till this day with my finances and the whole idea of what it means to be a business. I've been just doing whatever tickles my fancy and I'm here now. So now I've built this brand up. When I look back at it, people don't understand, or I underestimate those initial 3 to 4 years where I had no money coming in, where I was a nobody in the game, right? And I made a big decision at the beginning of my career to leave the fitness gyms behind and go on my own, what we call freelance. Was it in hindsight a bad idea? Yes, it was. Am I glad I did it? Yes, I am. Because I get to choose all my rules. I get to make all the rules. I get to play in my field the way I want to play it. Because when you look at fitness coaches, they all have to follow this way of coaching. It doesn't work with my audience. My people or the females that I train, they need spoon feeding sometimes. They need someone to hold their hand. And this is why the brand has been so successful, because it's not just about the physical transformation. We're working on your inner self, the self-image, what makes you a human being, every aspect. Let's pull it out, the loving yourself, the feeling confident, the self-esteem, all the things that we're all chasing, right? And money can't buy it. But if you learn it, it's forever with you. Why would you want to live a life not being seen, right? So when I look back at it, all the discrimination of being a woman, 1, being a South Asian woman, 2, and under the bracket is a Bangladeshi female, Then you have to face being a Muslim. Then you have to face so many other layers. But those layers of discrimination, it's not just in the wider society, it also starts from our community as well, right? So when I think back, and if I'm, again, transparent with the journey, it's my people I had to face first, right? The discrimination, how they saw myself. So I don't know how long you've been following me for. I spent probably a good 5 years on Facebook giving value to people, dismantling all of these myths, and then talking about mental health issues. Then I realized, oh my God, the hardest people to convince other people in my community. Yeah. And it's sad. But then when I look back at the journey again, I had to create my own opportunities and my lanes that I travel on. And that's some of the highs. But the lows is, when you look back at it, you had to start at the smallest. And it's scary. It was so scary. I forget how scary it used to be. Can I do this? No, I can't. So somebody has to reassure me, or my best friend or my sisters used to encourage me. And I'm thinking, wow, I needed a lot of reassurance in this journey.
Wow. So obviously you were in boxing as well. What was it like being a female in boxing gym?
Loved it.
Did you have any challenges, kind of taking that path? Or did people encourage you as well? Or did they try and put you down along the way as well?
Absolutely nobody encouraged me other than my sisters. My parents were dead against it. They hated it because who's going to marry me? Females don't box. Bangladeshi females don't box. Muslim girls don't box. So what would people say? These were all the things I had to face for a good 10 years of my life. My father being a very strong man as well. And me being the first daughter, I guess I took the brunt of a lot of crap as well, okay? The first child is always a trial and error.
Or the one that gets the most love.
Yeah, it's complex, They get the most love with a lot of issues as well. Shout out to all the older siblings. You're doing great. But I've lost the train of thought now. Boxing wasn't something that was encouraged. No, I just did it. Again, a part of me was rebellious and another part of me did it. But let me actually explain to you why I chose boxing. I had a lot of injuries from the gym. So I used to go to the gym 3 hours a day trying to become Miss Size Skinny, Miss Size, look at me, pick me, and, I'm attractive, right? And then I created a lot of injuries. I had a lot of injuries. And then I had to take time out from the gym. And I remember Muhammad Ali's daughter came to my college when I was 17. Wow. And I interviewed her. I was one of the females in that sports hall interviewing Muhammad Ali's daughter, Layla Ali. And I always remember how I looked at her and I thought, that's another brown female. She was brown. I know she's not Asian, but she was brown. And at the back of my head, I go, if she can do it, why can't I? And it just so happened I had a lot of anger issues apparently. And so there it was. That's how I became a boxer. But I loved it because it was a very euphoric sport for me. And it's a very hard, challenging sport. And it takes a lot of guts and courage to do that sport.
So what is that, or what are the active steps can someone take to improve their mental health? Imagine they're at their lowest. What are the steps?
First of all, I love that question actually. Let me think about this. When I'm having a low day, what do I do? Always talk to somebody, number one, that you can trust and take away the shame and the guilt. That always helps. Do basic things. I never prayed when I was depressed, okay? And it was one thing I wish I had incorporated in my life then. But now I see how prayer makes a huge difference in my life, right? The 5 times Salah is something I try my best not to miss, okay? Then you have to go into being grateful. It's prescribed. Everything that I teach in my program, somehow or other, is already prescribed. And then you think, wow. So do your gratitude list. I'm heavy on gratitude list. Learning how to love yourself. This is the premises of my work, what Fitness Reborn is about. Learning to love yourself comes with acceptance of who you are and where you are. And that's a journey we all have to take on ourselves as well. And then number 5 is having faith that everything's going to work out. And then number 6, seek out for help. absolutely important. Seek out for help. Talking to a friend is good, but when you get professional help, and we have a lot of stigma, and there's a lot of taboo around therapy work in our community as well. And that's my job, is to dismantle that myth this year.
Wow. That's very, very concise and practical way of going about it. I mean, look, I too wasn't in great shape, I guess 2017, 2016. And I hated myself. And I remember it was fitness. It was going through for small jogs around the park, getting used to the kind of idea of that discipline, continuous, doing something every day. And then alhamdulillah, throughout the process, I found myself a PT, and that was a game changer. I mean, that really, really helped me get through a very, very, very difficult phase.
Good.
Between 2018 and 2021. So I guess physical fitness is so intertwined and interlinked with mental fitness. It's unbelievable. So,
and we're gonna remember as well, our body has a right over us. Let's not forget the basic teachings of Islam. Okay, it's prescribed for us. It's an amana to look after yourself, physical health, your emotional health, everything, mind, body, and soul. You have to nourish all of those things. When they say my soul is feeling nourished, we are highest, our frequency is high, our energy is high. So when I train a lot of these females and they come to me with depression and suicidal thoughts, I love taking those clients on because I watch them change. I see clients that have been depressed for 10 years. And they've tried everything and they come to me, and within 8 to 12 weeks, I can take them and spin it around, and it's just like, oh, okay, a lease of life for them again.
Wow, amazing. So what is the most important form of development? Is it physical or is it mental?
You're asking some crazy questions, Kazi. All right.
Or perhaps spiritual.
So say the question again.
So what is the most important form of development? Is it physical, or is it mental, or is it spiritual?
So I'll give you a little story then. Do we have enough time?
Yeah.
Okay. There was somebody called Maxwell Maltz, if I'm correct on his name, and he was one of the first plastic surgeons in the 1960s. And it was new in the 1960s. I think it was the 1960s. And he had so many patients that used to come to him to get plastic surgery. They would get a nose job done, they would get whatever they fancied, and they would spend money to get that done. Now, when you look at it, it's everywhere, okay? So when he done his work at that time, these people used to come back for more surgery, right? So he started questioning. If you weren't happy with your nose, but you got it fixed, then why are you still coming back for more? So that means it's not the physical aesthetic parts that we are actually struggling with. It's how you see yourself in the mirror. So if you're somebody who still sees the ugly nose, you're forever going to feel that you're ugly within yourself. And this is where the self-image congruency comes in. And there's a beautiful book that I encourage everyone to read. It's called Cybernetics, Work from Within. And in my own experience of being a size 8, somebody with abs, somebody who was absolutely toned, having an amazing physique, and I'm still struggling with the way I look. There had to be a problem there. And it's because I never saw my worth from inside. I still saw a fat and ugly person looking back. When I look back at my 20s, I look at myself and think, you must be crazy. You were actually stunning, Nazia. So why did you still think that you were fat and ugly? At my thinnest, I still thought I was fat and ugly. Now, I've done all the work within. I'm fully appreciative of who I am. From my hair, to my eyes, to everything I used to be negative about, I had to work on it. And that's a process. So to answer your question, we have to think about the inner work, the soul, and the mental work. That's what creates a change. So you can be somebody who's a size 12, but if you are okay from the internal, that size 12 isn't going to faze you as much somebody who compared to who's a size 8 and still hates her body. And this is why I try to teach females, like, learn how to embrace and feel empowered in who you are, in your skin, because this is the only home you're going to live in. And this is the only vehicle we're going to be traveling. We travel on planet Earth as well, so look after it. The components. And Islam is teaching all of this to us. Why hydration, eating well, less meat, the prophetic way of looking at your health and lifestyle. It's all there, basically.
What about, how much does sleep play a part into all of this?
Yes.
How much do you value your sleep?
I love my sleep. But I'm also a very early riser as well. So there's different parts of our brains that's always been activated. And then people who, they've done studies on this, people who don't get enough sufficient sleep, they are more likely to binge eat during the day and crave sugar. Sleep is by far the biggest medicine that we have, that we can give to ourselves. But because of everyday technology, the dopamine kill, the scrolling, all of that stuff is taking us away. So we don't know whether we're coming or going. Sleep, they've done so many numerous studies on sufficient sleep, good sleep, and how to sleep, whether it's in a dark room, a mild temperature room, and everything. It does impact your psychological repair, your physical repair, every emotion that you're facing. If you have not had a good night's sleep, or 4 days you've gone out of whack with your sleep pattern, it impacts your eating habits, it impacts how you behave, it impacts your weight loss, weight gain, muscle, all of that stuff. So it's a very important, crucial part. And I know us Bangladeshi, we love going to sleep at 12.
Yeah, so how many hours do you sleep then?
I have to get 8 hours of sleep. I have to, and that's non-negotiable. And I sleep beautiful. When I was going through the depression, actually, I could sleep 15 hours and I'll still wake up exhausted. Absolutely exhausted. Like I had a fight in my sleep with some tiger or a bear, But when somebody's going through depression, they just want to switch off. Sleep becomes crucial, but it can also become to a point where you sleep too much and you're not doing enough movement during the day, or you're not feeling productive. So that it can be quite counterproductive for people who are at different stages of their life as well.
Do you know what I do sometimes when I face a very, very difficult challenge or a setback? I just go sleep because it's just a form of escapism. You kind of take a good sleep and then you wake up and then you kind of reevaluate the situation. I think it really, for me, I don't know if it helps others, but for me, it does help.
Yeah, because that's the overthinking part of your brain. It just wants to shut off. It doesn't want to think. It doesn't want to process what you're going through. So yeah, sometimes napping during the day and shutting off and then coming back to wherever you're doing is great. But then it can be quite dangerous for a lot of people. Like, for example, somebody who's been depressed, and if all they're doing is sleeping, their days away, they're not helping themselves get any better. I know when I'm going through a bad period in my life is when I need to take that 2 o'clock nap every single day. If I take a nap every single day for a week, I know there's a problem that I have to face, or something I've not challenged or worked through or something.
So as a mindset coach, what advice would you give to someone, I guess, who's struggling to become motivated or even stay motivated? Okay, so 2 parts to this question. I think motivation is very overrated in our society, and we're all seeking how to be motivated. But there's another angle I want you all to think about, and people who are watching this. So what we learn in neuroscience and how to get people to have lasting results and sustainable results with their fitness and their habits is understanding what traumas are you living with? What hidden unresolved conflicts are you living with? Because the brain is a very powerful organ, okay? Sometimes we think we're not being motivated, but really and truly we're living with the threat. And all the brain is trying to do is keeping your survival and your safety. So when somebody has a lot of trauma, so when somebody is looped with negative survival mechanisms or how to just get through the day, their motivation is going to be up and down all the time.
I've been very consistent with my fitness since the age of 17. And I'm 40 now. Don't ask me the good and the bad. I know I've been consistent. Okay. Yes, I've had the eating disorder. Yes, I've been very, very addicted to the game as well. But it's not a bad addiction to have, by the way, right? The gym. Okay. Yeah. It's a good addiction to have moderately. Yeah. So when you think about there's a threat in the brain, your motivation is going to be high and low. So this is what I specialize in, is eliminating the threat from your brain, which is actually getting people to confront the trauma, to confront the stuff that they haven't spoken about, the things that they've been suppressing for so long. Because if you think about it, suppressed emotions lead to repressed emotions. The depression is the volcano that erupts. And that's when we become out of control, or everything is just, how do I call it? Mental breakdown. So if you want to feel motivated, go and look at the trauma that you're living with. I know it's not what you want to hear, but after working with clients for 10 years, healing the trauma results to the weight loss, the good habits happen, the sustainable results happen. You feel like you want to do it rather than somebody having to tell you what to do. Learn about how your brain operates. And this is what I do, again, on the programs, is understanding what part of the brain you're operating from, and to take you away from the reptilian part of the brain to the logical part of the brain. So we're more conscious of the things that we do, the things that we eat, the things that we participate in. Getting up in the morning every day to go and train in the cold, it's not easy. But I do it now because I know it's a beautiful tool that I have. I have access to it that a lot of people struggle with. I don't struggle with going to the gym. I struggle with taking a rest day, right? So I have to, in the last 3 years, big part of my therapy healing work was take gym rest days, eat the burger and chips, eat wherever you want, rather than the restriction. So yeah, that's what I say. So
obviously you said you are a early riser. What do you do when you rise in the morning? Is there a routine?
Yes, I wake up. I think last year I've become a bit more lenient with my routine because I'm okay. I feel I'm more in control of my life. So I'll wake up upon rising. I do not give myself time to sit down in that or lay down in bed and look at the ceiling. That's a no-go zone. The moment you do that, you shot yourself in the foot, okay? Say Alhamdulillah, I'll pray my Fajr namaz, and then I'll pray, if I can, I'll pray Tahajjud. But I always have Quran in the background. As soon as I wake up, Quran is in the background. So access to my phone, YouTube, or put it on. And that literally takes me away from that fear, the anxiety part. Then it will be deep breaths. I'll either go out into the garden. I don't care how cold it is. Look up at the sky. I know I haven't. I don't really speak about this, not part of my routine, but I do go out into the garden to get fresh air, look up at the sky, and just do 10 deep breaths. That's it. That will regulate your central nervous system and bring you back to a place of, how do I say, grounding yourself. Then, if everybody who follows me, they know I'm big on gratitude lists. I'll write down probably a whole page of all the things that I'm grateful for. And then I'll use that time to also plan out my day and just be grateful in the essence I've already done. I've visualized, I've meditated, and that's it. Eat breakfast and then the gym. Those are my key things that I do in the morning.
So how do you maintain focus then? You know, we're in 2024. And people's attention span is like so less. Like if you're scrolling on TikTok or Reel, it's like milliseconds. Now before, when you make content, you would like have the hook within the first 3 seconds. Now you have to have it within the first millisecond. I mean, with that kind of information consumption people are going through, how do you remain focused? Is there a technique that you use, or you kind of recommend to other people to use to block out the noise?
Yeah. So I'm no different. I still have focus issues like everybody does. We're all addicted to our phones in some shape or form. What I did in 2020 that really helped me was I stopped following people. I just unfollowed people that was not bringing me any value in my life. And one of the things I learned is what we're looking at, we're becoming as well. Because our subconscious mind is constantly priming, isn't it? So when our subconscious, you have to think now, you have to rewire your subconscious brain. And the subconscious brain is what controls all of us. So I thought, okay, let me just unfollow everybody and then just live my life. And then you realize, oh yeah, you have access to the explore page. Just give yourself some time. I think I'm still trying to get into the habit. Even if I know it, it's still very hard because that is your new drug, social media and everything. So one of the best things I did for myself was if I find I'm comparing myself to fitness females or fitness bodies and I feel like, oh my God, I'm feeling a bit of inadequacy because my thighs are not that big or my body shape is not looking the same, straight unfollow. As much as I respect and adore that person because I'm doing it for my own sake, it's easy to get caught up in the comparison game. And then I just start, like I've done a lot in my time being a Bangladeshi fitness coach. And alhamdulillah, when I look back at it, it's because I stopped comparing myself to what the other fitness coaches doing. And then in 2020, I just made a decision. I want to just unfollow everyone because every day I'm scrolling, something I'm picking up that I'm not good enough, right? So I thought, no, just stop it. So that's one of the ways you can. The other ways, I'm still learning this, is actually being a lot more organized with your time and what you do on your phone.
No, I think what you said is absolutely right because I do the same. You know, if I want to be motivated about something, I will follow that.
Yeah.
If that kind of helps me get closer to my ambition, say for example, I want to buy a Ferrari now.
Yeah.
Naturally, I would follow the Ferrari page because day in, day out, it's going to remind me that, hey, that's my next goal.
Literally.
On the other hand, if there's something that is distracting me and pulling me away from my path, then I should automatically give myself a check and, you know, unfollow that thing or person or company that I'm following.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating how we can get influence on a day in, day out without even noticing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always being influenced. From the moment we wake up, we're being influenced, right? So it's just we get to, I'm a true believer that we get to design our own lives as well. Like when I think about the 10 years for me, if I didn't take control and say, this is what I want to do. Like even the whole Adidas sponsorship, writing for Adidas, being in these magazines, Stylist, Closer magazine. It's like, why the hell have I featured in Closer magazine? I'm like a nobody here. But it's having this idea of who you want to be and just live in alignment. Do the good for people and do it from a good heart and everything tenfold come back to you. And I like this because that's what we're trying to be, is being good and serving other people and seeing how we can make a difference in this life for ourselves and the people around us.
MashaAllah. Now that you are where you are, you know what you know. If you were to kind of rewind 10 years back, what advice would you give yourself?
I do a lot of inner child work, right? And so that is learning how to love the little parts of me, the little me that probably felt neglected or didn't get the love or the attention that she needed. And I think it would be having self-belief. I think self-belief has been the deciding factor in who I have become. And that self-belief wasn't instilled in me as a child. Like it hasn't been in a lot of us growing up, okay? I don't come from an entrepreneurial background. I don't come from a father that's a millionaire or he's a businessman, you know? Or relatives, shall I say, that I know, first-hand relatives. So knowing when you're doing something for the first time, it's always going to be hard, right? We call them the black sheep of the family, don't we?
Yeah.
I don't label myself as that anymore. But it's self-belief. I will go back and try to instill as much self-belief I can, like the way I do with my nephews, like the way I do with my clients. And as a result of somebody saying, I believe you can do it, they do amazing things.
So how worried are you about the modern society and the youth of today?
Very.
Because back in our times, we had time to kind of block things out. We didn't maybe have TV in our house. Now everything is in our palm. How worried are you about the current society and where the world is going?
It is very worrying. Now, if you think about even this recent thing that's been happening in Palestine and how we have seen the people in control and how everybody has been brainwashed and what's been done about it, it's very worrying. I think the young generation are at disadvantage and at an advantage as well with what they have that wasn't given to us as well. I do worry about the young generation's mental health more than anything because, these young people, they become very self-absorbed sometimes without realizing how quickly it can impact their mental health, right? Everybody's made it out here, but nobody wants to talk about the dark sides of it. The mental health of young people on social media and what they have access to is somehow soul destroying when I look at some young people. Then we have to also look at the aspects of young people in relationships, young people in marriages, and all that kind of stuff. What they go through is very different to what you and I went through. So let me give you an example. In our Bangladeshi community, in the last decade, I would say I have worked with a lot of young females between about 20 to 25. And then you have the other spectrum of females that are my age or in the 30s or the 40s. And the one common theme I've seen, and again, something that we don't talk about, and I'm sorry if it triggers a lot of people, is the sexual abuse that people have gone through. We still don't talk about it in our community because it's seen as shameful, disgusting, or you blame the victims. In both ways, it's impacted both generations, and it still does. Social media gives more people access to young people, to groom and all that kind of stuff. And when in our generation, we had all, how do I say it? The imams and everybody, which got shoved under the carpet. But it has created a huge impact on people as well. So that is one thing we have to speak more about in that essence and how it impacts everybody's lives in so many different ways. But the young people right now, I think they need to do work on themselves in their own little ways, whether it's trauma healing, whether it's looking after their mental health, whether it's loving themselves, stop comparing themselves, take time off social media, talk to somebody. These are all things that we have to think about for the next generation.
So, talking of social media, I mean, do you see yourself becoming a creator or...
No.
No? Why?
People think everybody who has a social media platform, they're automatically a content creator. I struggle with content creation. That's one thing that I look at other people and I think, I wish I could do this transition and everything. I stopped. I thought, just do what works for you, all right? Do what works for your time now and what's important, right? What does your audience need? Because I thought I was a fitness coach, but apparently people come to me to learn about how to love themselves, how to heal, how to recover from depression, how to love themselves. I'm like, oh, okay. But I love it because it's not just the body that you're trying to change. You're trying to create change in every area of your life. So I don't think I'm a content creator, but apparently I am, but who knows? So
obviously you've won a number of awards for the work that you do, the things that you do, and speaking from a business angle perspective, why don't you then, if you don't want to be a creator, why don't you scale up what you're doing? When are we going to see nationwide version of your business?
That's where you're going to help me.
I hope so, inshallah.
But no, that's the aim this year, is to create more digital programs for people that can actually access me. And my main aim actually this year is to create my website and create everything that I do on a digital platform so people can actually watch the videos, do the videos, whatever they need to do, and come more away from the Instagram. Because the way Instagram has censored people is so soul destroying and it's upsetting. And we're not, if you're a person of color, you're more invisible compared to the white person that's out there with the way the algorithms and everything work. So you have to work 10 times harder.
Really? Is that the case?
100%.
We like to kind of be inclusive. We want to have way more diversity than we have. So yes, we're kind of all out there, and you know, we do believe in empowerment.
Good.
And it's not something that I personally shy away from, because
no, you shouldn't, because we need allies as men as well, especially in our community. And I keep telling people I'm not a feminist. I am far from a feminist. Right? Feminism has ruined so many of us.
Did you say you're far from feminism?
Yeah, I'm all about empowerment, but not a feminist. And I think people think I am a feminist because of who I am, but I'm not. It's like I want to be living in my soft girl era. I want to be looked after. I want to be protected. And when people see that, they go, but you're independent. I go, no, I'm not actually. I'm very dependent on my family, my father, my brothers, my brother-in-laws. A man is meant to be doing a manly thing, and a woman's meant to be doing a womanly thing. But that's a whole different conversation.
Absolutely. No, we don't want to get into that conversation today.
Yes.
It's gonna take up another 1.5 hours for sure. Now, before we finish our conversation, I want to end with a few quickfire questions.
Go for it.
If your life was made into a film, which actor or actress would you want to play your role?
J-Lo.
J-Lo?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Only because I adore her.
What's one book that had a profound impact on your life?
How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie, yeah.
Yes, an amazing book. It's like, it's so simple stuff, but we so overlook.
Literally.
What's your favorite podcast or YouTube channel at the moment? Obviously, of course, apart from our one.
Andrew Huberman.
Nice. And what are the top 3 items in your gym bag?
Top 3? I would say always a water bottle, makeup, and my trainers, obviously.
What was it?
Water bottle.
Water bottle.
Makeup.
And
trainers.
Why makeup?
Why not?
Why though? Because I thought as a fitness coach, you're supposed to, you know.
No, I wear makeup. I love makeup. I love everything that's girly. And we need it after the gym.
Of course.
After the gym.
No, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today. I hope you have enjoyed the conversation. Right at the beginning, you said, oh my God, like, you know, we're going to talk for an hour. I don't know, how long has it been? It's been an hour and a half, almost, hour and 15 minutes. So a lot to talk about, and I'm sure we can keep talking on various aspects. You have a very interesting journey, and that's what really made me interested in talking to you. So thank you for once again finally making the time for us, and I hope we'll have many more conversations in the very near future. And that's it for today. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode of Side by Side with myself, Kazi Shafiqur Rahman, and our special guest, Nazia Khatun, an award-winning fitness specialist. If you have been enjoying today's episode, don't forget to share it with your family and friends, and those who you might feel may benefit from this episode. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.